From You to Gone Girl, here are the rare thriller novels that manage to hook the reader from page 1 without disappointing in their final chapter. There's nothing more frustrating than a thriller that is nearly perfect. Whether it is a tense psychological thriller or a lighter, more straightforward mystery story, many great books have been ruined by bad endings. These almost tense thrillers tend to either get too convoluted or feature a twist that is so utterly shocking, it ends up derailing the entire narrative. This is particularly unfortunate when the book has been strong until this stage, leaving viewers feeling stung by a story that wasted their time and investment. Fortunately, that's what this rundown is for. These books start strong but, crucially, remain killer thrillers throughout. The tone varies between the books listed here, with some having elements of dark humor and camp while others play their intense stories entirely straight. However, the more important reassurance is that, for all of their differences, these books don't disappoint with their endings. You, Caroline Kepnes. Kepnes' serial killer thriller has an iconic hook. Joe Goldberg, Penn Badgley, looking surprised in You. The first in a multi-novel series that now has an equally famous Netflix adaptation, You has a disarmingly simple premise. The book follows the story of Joe Goldberg, an obsessive stalker who follows his latest would-be love interest as he plans to entrap her and make her fall in love with him. Joe is a killer and a very dangerous man, so there's obviously a lot of tension involved in hearing him rationalize his actions as he breaks down his terrible plan. However, there's also a shocking amount of genuinely funny humor in You, and Joe repeatedly proves himself to be an unexpectedly charming, persuasive narrator. As such, readers will have a hard time putting this one down, and the ending doesn't disappoint. Twisty, dark, and unpredictable, Kepnes' novel is a must-read for thriller aficionados. Fingersmith, Sarah Waters. This twisty historical mystery will keep every reader guessing. Fingersmith. Adapted to the screen in 2016 as The Handmaiden, 2002's Fingersmith is the lone historical novel on this list. However, readers expecting a musty, slow-moving story should look elsewhere. As deft and daring as its namesake, Fingersmith follows an orphaned young woman as she pairs up with a con man to defraud a rich heiress. To say anything more would be to give away the game, but suffice to say the book is a profoundly unpredictable mystery that would keep even seasoned thriller readers guessing. Its screen adaptations tend to play up the story's campy elements, but the reserved tone of Waters' writing ensures even the wildest twists feel believable and rooted in reality. Gone Girl, Gillian Flynn. Flynn's legendary thriller has a genuinely shocking twist. Rosamund Pike smiling in Gone Girl. Although Gone Girl's legendary author, Gillian Flynn, has recently published numerous new books by other authors via the Gillian Flynn Books imprint, few writers can compete with her mastery of the genre. Gone Girl remains Flynn's magnum opus, a satirically sharp, cutting psychological thriller that breaks down a failing marriage and the violence underneath its cheery veneer. Although Amy Dunn is arguably Flynn's most iconic creation, her husband Nick's narration is just as compelling and intriguing as hers. These two toxic partners spin a web of lies that even the savviest reader will get caught up in, and a mid-novel twist works so well that it remains startling and daring even on a reread. The Jigsaw Man, Nadine Matheson. This grim psychological thriller follows the hunt for a killer. Cropped cover of The Jigsaw Man by Nadine Matheson. Author Nadine Matheson's debut, The Jigsaw Man, has a killer conceit that calls to mind the serial killer thrillers of the 90s, blending C7EN, Copycat, and The Silence of the Lambs with an updated, high-octane thriller format. When D.I. Angelica Henley is tasked with hunting down a murderer who is severing and scattering their victims' body parts, she visits an infamous killer for help. The Jigsaw Man might be serving a life sentence for his killings, but his influence is still all over this latest spate of deaths. When a human head arrives at the heroine's door, she knows that she isn't the only one doing the hunting. Brisk, brutal, and full of gut-punch twists, The Jigsaw Man is necessary reading for thriller fans. Final Girls, Riley Sager. Sager's killer debut subverts a horror movie staple. Final Girls cover featuring the title in red text with the I in each word scratched out. Recommended by no less than Stephen King, Riley Sager's debut thriller remains her strongest effort to date. Following the lone survivor of a mass murder, Final Girls picks up years after the killings as its protagonist attempts to live a normal life and forget her connection to the grisly crime. Of course, the past doesn't stay buried for long, and the arrival of another survivor from another mass murder, this one much more troubled, soon brings dark memories to the surface. Final Girls is a twisty, creepy story that takes the infamous Final Girl trope of the title and folds it in on itself until few viewers will be able to predict its killer conclusion. Compared to later efforts from the author, Final Girls also has a level of smart social satire that helps elevate the novel and provide some dark laughs between scenes of suspense. Like Flynn, Sager uses this wit to hide some plot twists that may be a little convenient in another, less polished novel. Razorblade Tears, S.A. Cosby. Cosby's heartbreaking thriller has a perfect ending. Razorblade Tears cover. Among S.A. Cosby's many crime novels, Razorblade Tears is a clear standout. Beginning with the violent murder of a mixed-race couple, the novel goes on to follow two flawed convicts related to the couple who try to unearth the truth behind their brutal deaths. Touching on systemic racism and toxic masculinity, Razorblade Tears is a novel with a lot to say about the state of America in 2021, the year of its release. However, its sharp social commentary never gets in the way of the fast-paced, unpredictable storytelling, making this one a must-read thriller with heart, guts, and a killer ending. The Shards, Bret Easton Ellis. Ellis' late career comeback is effortlessly unsettling. Bret Easton Ellis. Bret Easton Ellis was always a strong thriller writer, with his pared-back prose and a blacker-than-night sense of humor shining through as early as his killer debut, Less Than Zero. However, this style was taken too far in the follow-up Imperial Bedrooms, a grim book whose hopeless attitude left its plot feeling shallow and pointless. Fortunately, The Shards is a compelling comeback for the author, and his best work since 2005's Luna Park. Ellis himself is the novel's main character as a fictionalized teenage version of the author narrates the nightmarish summer when he and his loose social circle were targeted by a serial killer. The aloof, unfeeling attitude of Ellis's narration contrasts with the gripping, twisty mystery at the book's core, hiding a thrilling page-turner in what seems like a brooding memoir. Dark, gripping, and often unexpectedly poignant and funny, The Shards is an unmissable late-career comeback for Ellis.